This is Bill Murphy Show, Season 2, Episode 3. This podcast is made possible by an underwriting from Millennium Laser Eye Centers, a local partner and a national institution. Worth the trip from anywhere to beautiful Fort Lauderdale, Florida for your LASIK procedure from Dr. Corey Lesner and his staff. Visit them at havelasik.com. Millennium Laser Eye Centers. You won't believe your eyes. And now with the customary soothing, smooth podcast introduction music out of the way, here's today's show.
It's The Bill Murphy Show, featuring people from all walks of life, the best in the business, from behind the scenes and on the stage. Available by subscription for free on iTunes and at BillMurphyShow.com. Brought to you by
You, if you'd like to become part of the show, drop me an email at murph@billmurphyshow.com. We can make your business a presenting sponsor, become partners, and be heard worldwide together.
And now, here's your host, Bill Murphy.
With another new episode on this Monday, July 11th, 2016. Gene, how are your eyes doing, by the way? Can we sell you some LASIK eye surgery?
Well, I got just the one I need work on, so that's a possibility.
I actually had it done, no joke. I had the monovision done for the reading, and it's excellent.
Yeah, actually, I had cataract surgery at 40, one eye at 40, one eye at 50, and they did adjust it pretty good at that point. So, but the girls still think I'm old and ugly.
A couple of old Fort Lauderdale guys chatting today on this edition of the Bill Murphy Show. I've got Gene Merola, legendary, outrageous Gene Merola, as he's known. Thanks for joining me, buddy.
Quite happy, and thanks for inviting me.
We are revamping the show up now that everybody knows what podcasting is. I did it 6 years ago. It sort of like went, what? How does that work? And now everybody knows you can go to iTunes, subscribe. You can subscribe to this show, and then just tell your phone, I don't want it to download automatic shows so you don't automatically, so you don't fill up the space on your phone, and then you just listen when you want. You can go to BillMurphyShow.com and click on it, Gene's picture, and the button will be right there. Go, put it on Bluetooth and listen. We're going to talk about what you got coming up, a couple of gigs locally that I'm going to definitely show up and have some fun with you. I also just want to get into something else, though, that I need to do at the top of the show, because if I do it sometimes, if for some reason we got on a roll and this was very entertaining and funny, and then I brought this up later, it would just bring the whole thing down. So let's start here, and all we can do is go up from there. I was thinking, I've booked a comedian now, finally, a guy I've wanted to have on for the show for a long time, got to do some laughing. And then, we have all these events happen, and it just brings up this whole subject of where comedy fits into our lives, when we need to have it fit in, when it's appropriate, when it's not, and really like snapping back into the whole performance mode. And when you're a comic, when things around you just seem so, I don't know, bleak, for lack of a better word.
I think this is the time, actually, where the comedian or funny man can actually soothe a lot of people. I think that's something people. Yeah, obviously the events are catastrophic and sad and heart wrenching. However, we need, and this is politicizing it maybe, we need to be more loving as a country towards each other. And I think a lot of the comedians will now go to the point where, hey, listen, we're all in this together. Let's see if I can, with my humor, with my sense of sensitivities, make you feel better about the life. Even though things around us are exploding, let us gather together and be stronger as one unit.
I completely agree. I just think the key thing is, and I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking this, it's you don't really realize you need this sort of comic relief therapy sort of break from the soothing, as you will, until you're actually there in it. Like, for instance, I lost a dear friend about 15, 16 years ago. A bunch of us lost a dear friend, and one of her friends came to us and said, you know what she'd want us to do right now is let's go laugh. Let's go out to, I think it was Mr. Laughs or Sofa King or one of those places that was over there on State Road 84. And let's go watch some comedy. I thought, are you crazy? not in the mood for this right now. And then once you get there and after the fact, you're like, oh, that was the best thing we could have done. It's just initially getting people into the mood to realize that they even need to do that because people seem to bury themselves in somewhat of a shell in times like these. Sometimes.
I'm sorry, but that does happen. Yes, I'm probably guilty of it myself. I remember during the wars, some of the battles, for the first time, we're actually seeing all the destruction and battles on TV, and you get so depressed, and all the negative things that go on are now televised, and it compounds that sadness. And it's hard to get out of it, but you have to actually pick yourself up by the bootstraps, like you and your friends did. Get up and get out, and don't wallow in that sadness because it's destructive. You have to go on, I think, and live life in honor of those tragic events.
And I was watching a clip of you. You appeared with Ed Berlin, I guess on Newsmax or something, I believe. That's
yeah.
Thing. And you guys were talking about, you had a connection with Robin Williams. You talked and delved a little bit into depression and that whole pessimism thing. But then being able to, and Robin was, of course, the master at this more than any of us. And I know a little bit from my, public speaking experiences and performing like this and things I didn't need to do. I could be in the worst mood ever. But when it comes to showtime, you do what you do know how to do best. You just go ahead and shine for those moments. And it's actually, as a performer, I know you'd agree with this, it's like the best release you can get from any of it yourself because you're in that mode where just nothing else matters.
Truly. And to your point, the person suffering from this depression is a master at disguising it. Billy Crystal was Robin Williams' best friend, and he didn't know. He didn't see it. He couldn't find it in his face, in his eyes, in his demeanor. He was able to keep it from Billy Crystal, his best friend.
He was always on, no matter who he was with. Right.
No, exactly. He was a master, as the people who are depressed can be. I remember as first-hand information from my first-hand experience, when I was working in the cruise ships, my mom and my dad died 2 years apart from each other. And, of course, the old show business adage, the show must go on, I would perform, but it was a cathartic therapy for me, actually, to be able to still function, acknowledge the hurt, acknowledge the pain, acknowledge the loss, but remember that in their honor, I'm going to, because they were big fans of mine, so I wanted them to know that I was going to be able to do this in their honor. That's how I approached it.
Remember, folks, you need it even more than you think you do. Comedy at the Colony. The outrageous Gene Merola. That's Colony West Golf Club in beautiful Tamarack, Florida.
You're a golfer. I know that.
Oh, yeah. No, great track up there.
Yes, and when I first came into town, I played golf. I wasn't an avid golfer. I became an avid golfer through wonderful friends of mine who were patient enough to show me the intricacies of the game. And Colony West was where oh my gosh. It's a track I think that you cannot master. You can play well, you can play poorly, but you can't master it, I think.
But just like any other good golf course, and I do know these courses in the area, they have it laid out so if you do want to play from a little bit more forward, and it's fair and fun, at least, if you play it at a distance that's, within reality. So correct.
And a lot of guys have that mindset that, well, I'm not going to get the graphite clubs. I don't care if I can swing faster. I'm going to still play from the blues. When now they have the senior markers that you can actually go between the whites and the reds, and I'm not above wearing a skirt, by the way.
That's fine. And it's almost certain that you'll get it past the ladies' tees from that one.
Why'd you qualify it with almost? That's really hurtful, Billy.
I'm saying for both of us, buddy. It's like I said, we're a couple of old Fort Lauderdale guys just shooting the shit on the Bill Murphy show. So.
Hey, let me tell you something. Speaking about old...
I didn't finish the plug for you, though. 8 o'clock Saturday at Colony West for Comedy at the Colony. And you can see Gene Merola there. So.
This past Friday, again, speaking about the old guys from Fort Lauderdale, I went to the Parrot this past Saturday, rather.
For the Paul Lorenzo thing, which I didn't go to.
Oh, I was there. And Mayor Seiler gave Paul Lorenzo an icon, certainly in the Fort Lauderdale area.
Yes.
Bar owner, restaurateur, the key to the city.
Oh, man, I should have been there. I'm glad you were there to represent me.
Well, I certainly was, and I saw Paul. I spoke with him, and I met his wife, I think he said, of 36 years.
Wow.
Very happy for him, and I saw a bunch of old people. I saw Zero from The Hut. an iconic bar in off Sunrise.
Right.
So just a bunch of old guys from the days. As you may or may not remember, I used to have a nightclub called Bojangles back in Fort Lauderdale back in the 80s.
Of course I remember. That's what we were going to get into, too, and it's a good segue that you brought up, Paul, because I worked a lot for Paul at Cheers and have a lot to be thankful to him for. I delved into this a little bit. You were a club owner. Tell me how that happened with you. Were you finding at a young age a lot of success on your comedy shows that all of a sudden you sort of a light bulb went up over your head and went, I could do this? What was the transition?
I could take credit for it.
Yeah, okay.
If you don't mind, let me give you a backstory. I started out working at CBS. I dropped out of college, or dropped out of me. I can't really decipher the difference. Except I was no longer in college.
It stopped fitting and it just fell off.
And I started working for CBS as a page. I worked for the Ed Sullivan Show. Merv Griffin was my line, to tell the truth. I ushered people into the theater. I eventually I held cue cards for Ed Sullivan. Oh. I had this desire and not an outlet to perform. I didn't know exactly where. I went on vacation in Cape Cod. The winters I was spending in Aspen. So Cape Cod in the summer, Aspen in the winter. People in Aspen said, you've got to go down to Fort Lauderdale and see the number one, to their estimation, the number one single entertainer, John Day. He was performing at Chuck's Steakhouse on 17th Street in Fort Lauderdale. Great. I do that. Fantastic singer. Wonderful, great-looking guy. Plays well on the guitar. But he didn't interact with the audience. And I said, boy, I can do this. So I asked the general manager, I got to get an audition. He said, listen, I know who you are. I've heard you on Cape Cod. You are really funny. You're really good. We're talented. We're opening up a new place in the spring. Come on down in Plantation, Chuck Steakhouse. Great. I come down. I call up before I come down, and the guy said, no, the owner doesn't want to change their entertainment that they have. I said, listen, I'll fly myself down. I'll pay for my own expenses. If you like it, you reimburse me. If you don't, no harm, no foul. I go down, I audition, I did great. The owner still doesn't want to hire me because I didn't finish the songs because he was used to John Day singing beautifully. But I killed him at the register. Everybody made a lot of money. Cut to John Day now and the owner of Chuck's Steakhouse owning a place called Friends on Oakland Park Boulevard, if you remember that place.
Barely, yes, remember.
Across the street from Rosebuds.
Okay.
And John Day, after my 3 weeks of performing for him while he was on vacation, I had broken records 3 weeks in a row. We go to the Egg and U. This is all full of old Fort Lauderdale established places. Mm-hmm. So John said, had you ever considered getting in a nightclub? I said, no, I can't. I don't have any money. And he said, neither do I. I said, you get somebody with money, I'll get somebody with money, we'll put something together. And that was the germ for Bojangles. And to this day, I really don't even consider myself a comedian because Bojangles sat 300 people, Billy.
Yeah.
It sat 300 people. We were getting 600 and 700 people there through the doors on the weekend. We packed it for 6 years. One guy, I was on stage for 4 or 5 hours a night. I had on occasion, we'd have somebody come up and spell me on a Saturday because we were open an hour later. But John Day and Paul Proffer, the owner of Chuck's Steakhouse, and my buddy George a robot from the Cape, and Kenny Hahn were the original owners of Bojangles.
Unbelievable. So that place and your act was just a franchise, just a self-standing, sufficient...
That was the problem. I was the only entertainment, and if I wasn't performing, no one would come in. So, and we couldn't brand it, we couldn't duplicate it because the sheep could be duplicated, but not Jimmy Merola, evidently.
Right. Wow, that's fantastic. That time period was...
Oh, boy. We opened up November 1st, 1978.
Wow. And I do remember going there. I'm trying to think. There would have been a time. Yes. There would have been a time where I was standing in the back of the room with a fake ID, drinking a beer illegally. I
cannot tell you how many people came up to me over the years and said exactly that. You used to come in, and we had, to my naive thought, guys checking IDs at the door.
Well, I mean, I had a good fake one though, but I literally had to stand in the back. It was just, there was no place to sit. And I'm by myself. You'd think I'd be able to find like a lone seat at the bar or something. No.
It was. I'm so proud of that experience. And we talked. The partners will get together every once in a while, and we'll have a breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever. And now we do early bird specials because we're old.
So you enjoyed meteoric success with
unbelievable. I'm telling you, yes.
And I experienced the exact opposite just a few months ago. No, not actually, but we got to work together in a very short-lived. Hey, you can't blame us for trying.
Hey, listen, I loved the production of how we put it all together.
Yeah.
And because you were there, we did business.
Well, the thing is, between Mark, and myself, Mike with his experience in the comedy world and us doing radio and shows and presenting things like that, and even going back to the school play days, you just have that. And now for our next performer kind of thing where you just have that continuity going, and it sort of came naturally to all of us. So we love. I love
the green room effect. You had the green room, the spotlight on the doors. They came out of the green room. That was such a classy way to bring on, and every entertainer, all the young comedians were so impressed and excited to perform in that room.
We have those memories to live with us forever. Talk about the other guys that you're going to be performing with. It's going to be this weekend. You got another gig coming up in Venice, Florida on the 21st. I love it. The Old Guys Rule.
I'm excited about that. And let me do for the Saturday, the July 16th first. We have a talented guy from Deerfield. His name is Joe Nye. And Joe, as a matter of fact, is in an improv group, and his forte is in improv, and he does a lot of that throughout the South Florida area. And now he's starting to branch out and go around the country doing his improvisational magic with his group. Michael Panseca and I go back to the old cruise days. After Bojangles, I started going on cruise ships. I was working cruise ships for 25 years. And Michael was one of those performers I got to be close with, and we haven't worked together in so many years. He lives down here in Fort Lauderdale, and we came across, our paths intersected, and we're really excited about working together. He is hip. He is spot on. He does great observational comedy. He is a master at working the audience, and I'm very happy and excited to be working with him on Saturday.
Nice, comfortable atmosphere there at Colony West, so it is worth it to call for reservations, 954-726-8430, extension 6 for the, you have your own extension for the reservations for your thing.
Well, we're pretty big time.
It's Colony West Golf Club, and what is it, Pine Island and McNabb, right? Ish?
Yes.
Where it's located. You've spent some time, of course. Not only are we a couple of old guys in Fort Lauderdale reminiscing, but of course, as you do when you live in Fort Lauderdale, we have some New York roots. Staten Island. I'm fascinated with Staten Island. I'm a Westchester County guy, but I see you grew up there, went to school there.
Let me tell you, Staten Island. A lot of people don't know this, but they had the world's largest dump. It's called Kilvan Cull, and this was such you could see this dump from space.
Isn't
yes,
the city in New Jersey just as famous for that? What am I thinking? Secaucus or no? What is the town I'm thinking of in New Jersey?
Well, that's what they do when they try to get the president. They have a Secaucus. Would you please stay abreast of the times, my friend?
That'll take us 19 minutes to get a laugh. Yeah, but Staten Island is famous for a lot of things, not just a dump. There's also
the movie The Godfather. The original Godfather was filmed on Staten Island.
Oh wow, okay.
And being from New York City, I was naive. I was 15 years old before I found out that the police were paid by the city as well. And the atmosphere in Staten Island, you're much too young to remember this, but back in the movies of the 40s, 50s, and 60s, if a cop messed up in Manhattan, he was banished to Staten Island because that was the punishment. Oh, no, not to Staten Island. It was the sticks. It was the unknown borough, the forgotten borough. People think it was like Long Island. No, it's totally different from Long Island. No. It's closer, and this is closer to Jersey. It's attached by 3 bridges to Jersey, only 1 bridge to Brooklyn, and the ferry to Manhattan, but there are 3 bridges operating, connecting us, Staten Island, to Jersey.
No, it's fascinating. The place has always fascinated me, and I've never been there. Of all the time I spent in New York, I've never been in Staten Island at all. There's the documentary about the supposed legendary serial killer that was going around Staten Island, the whole Cropsey legend? No, you're not familiar with that?
I don't take stock into that because I'm not there anymore.
Ah, fair enough. But I don't know. Staten Island's always fascinated me. It secretly, like, quietly sits there with all this very intriguing medical activity and research going on. I don't know.
Yes, and very good cancer treatment centers are in. George Harrison was treated in Staten Island.
So still there, still active stuff going on.
Yes,
oh, good.
At a much smaller scale right now. If you remember, I think Geraldo Rivera did
Willowbrook, that's the place I'm trying to think
Willowbrook.
of. Right.
Geraldo Rivera did specials on that, yes.
Right.
Let me tell you, my first gig performing was in Staten Island at a place called the Red Barrel Bar. It was on Sand Lane in Staten Island, and the owner of the place shows me a gun.
Wow.
He says, don't let anybody give you any nonsense.
Whoa, okay.
He says, if this gun could put a hole in the engine of a car, so whatever you want, you tell me. Don't let anybody tell you what to do. That you answer to me only, okay?
Whoa. Well, so if a car comes in here, I'll have you come in here and put a hole in it.
Put it away.
Yeah.
And I said, sir, are there any songs you don't want to hear?
Exactly. Please let me know now.
I was shaking. And at the time, I knew like 12 songs, and I kept playing them over and over again because that was my first gig. And oh, my gosh, I'm in show business.
So to get into the whole personal side of comedy, because now we're out to, everyone that listens to the show has to learn something from our guests. That's what I'm out to do, to help people. Let's get a little personal about what comedy is for you and what you do. Now, I've seen you enough and am familiar enough with your routine to know how to categorize you and sort of place you in what kind of comedy you do. And it's more observational than it is personal, which I find to be a very interesting line that comics and musicians, for that matter, have to walk. How personal do you get? How much of a true story do you put out there and expose of yourself in order to get a laugh, and how much do you stay away from that? How much of that line have you walked in your career? Now,
I'm not one of those guys who does the introspective stuff, although what I do, my observations, for instance, I say how lazy this generation has become because they go to stores like Macy's and buy distressed jeans. And they're too lazy to wear the jeans until they become
distressed.
Distressed, sorry. Like I did. I mean, I wore my jeans, and then when they became so baggy or so holey, I cut them, make them shorts.
Right.
So, and that's the kind of observation I make. I make how the observations some people make are scary. Sometimes people make such scary, personal, introspective things. I don't expose myself only because that's not how I was evolved in my storytelling. Now, what I do, however, I consider when I'm performing that people are in my living room, and I want them to enjoy the experience, have a wonderful time, come on in. I'll be as vulnerable as you are, but let's all have a good time together. Now, I can be... I can drop the F-bomb every once in a while. I use it more for impact. I don't think it's funny when you abuse it. I think you can strategize and make it work for you.
Right. You're more of a cross-generational comparison type of guy. Because your age works to your advantage in this respect. You've seen the world many years ago, and you see it now, so it's easier to make those comparisons and present that up. So it's sort of there's more of that going on than there is a, hey, take a look into my life kind of thing going on.
What I say is I may be older than you, but I'm not old.
Oh, there you go.
And that's how I feel. I mean, I make references to Lady Gaga, and a lot of people don't know this, but I was the one who encouraged Lady Gaga to put the second "ga" in her name because it didn't sound full to me. And so she's very appreciative, and she's talked about having me open for her many times.
It's got to be worth a huge royalty check.
You would think.
One would think.
But instead, I'm working closed nightclubs.
I was going to play like a little clip. I was going to find something on YouTube and play it over here, but we'll let everybody see your comedy in person. Comedy at the Colony with the outrageous Gene Merola, and there's two other special guests there. Colony West Golf Club, Tamarack, 8 o'clock Saturday. Reservations 954-726-8430, extension 6. And then the following week, I guess this is a Thursday night for the old guys.
Let me tell you, that is such an exciting thing. A couple of friends of mine, the ventriloquist, his name is Peter Michael Hefty, and his friend Justin, his puppet Justin, he's worked the Fort Lauderdale area for many years, and Ted Holem is a Chicago-based comedian who's moved into the North Florida area near Jacksonville, and the three of us are three different parts of a unit.
The four of you.
Well, technically, Justin is the brains behind everything.
It's funny. I caught you calling him his friend instead of his puppet because he's really, really pulling off such a good job. You called him his friend. That's great.
Well, if you go see a good ventriloquist, you're mesmerized, and you buy that this dummy is alive.
Obviously, you just bought it. That's why I'm. What better endorsement could you get? His friend
also
Justin.
Old.
Yes. I love it.
But Ted Holem does street stand-up comedy. Two guys walked into a bar, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Peter does the ventriloquism, and I do musical comedy. I do the song parodies, etc. And we auditioned, did a couple of showcases during this year, and we got almost 50 gigs scheduled for next year.
Nice.
As the Old Guys Rule comedy tour, and it's really clicking for us. We're really excited about that.
That's right. I can hear the excitement in your voice. That'd be worth seeing. Gene Merola, thanks for getting so up close and personal with us and sharing your valuable time on my show. This has been a lot of fun.
Billy, it's been a pleasure. Anytime I could help, and I'd love to see you a Saturday night at the Colony West Golf Club.
I'm thinking that with the Bojangles thing where you talked about how often you played there and how often the place was packed, I'm standing in the back of the room. My most memorable Gene Merola moment, and I know I've shared this with you before, but I'll share it with the audience, was you're playing one of your songs on your guitar, doing your little bit, and there's an upright piano sitting next to you about a few feet away, and you interrupt the song right out of the blue and just randomly say, by the way, those of you from Davie, this is a piano. You've probably never seen anything this size that didn't have John Deere written on the side of it, which is my all-time favorite lines. Now what I'm guessing in retrospect is you probably use that line almost every night since you had to be up there so much.
Yeah, it was amazing. People came in, they knew my act better than I did. However, what they would do, they would bring a friend in to watch the friend's reaction to what I was doing, or they would set their friend up. When he says this, raise your hand, and then the guy would come up on stage, or the girl would come up on stage, and now his friends are enjoying the embarrassment that he's up on stage with me.
Great.
It was crazy and a great experience. And thank you for remembering that. That was a funny line.
Fantastic. Well, there you go. You can resurface it. Just get an upright piano up there with you. So you can see all this again at the Comedy at the Colony, outrageous Gene Merola, Colony West Golf Club, Saturday night. Thanks again, Gene. Keep subscribing and liking and sharing, and we'll catch you next time with another show later this week.
Subscribe to the Bill Murphy Show podcast for free at iTunes. You can post comments about today's show, listen to archived episodes, and like the show on Facebook by visiting BillMurphyShow.com. A presentation of Bill Murphy Productions.